Many of us knows about the hero Theseus, the great king of Athens, who slew the bull-headed terrifying monster minotaur, but very few of us knows about his origins that we are going to talk about today. In my previous video of Hercules, if you watched it, which I'll tag in the card in the top right hand corner, you will see I've mentioned his name quite a few times. After all, how can we describe the journey and adventures of Hercules without mentioning the great Theseus? Theseus was the king of Athens, which is perhaps the most famous city in ancient Greece. His achievements and feats were so remarkable that he was often called the Athenian Hercules. We should start from his birth with his father, King Aegeus of Athens. Aegeus fails to have a son even after having many wives, so he does what most Greek mythology character does and consults the oracle of Delphi. The oracle spoke to him in vague language, which he barely understood. The oracle told him, "Do not loosen the bulge mouth of your wine sack until you reach Athens, lest you die of grief." Of course, Aegeus did not understand these puzzling words and decided to return to Athens. While returning, he decided to stop in the kingdom of Troyes, where King Theseus greeted him. King Theseus was wise and intelligent, and upon hearing the words of oracle from King Aegeus, he decided he should let him sleep with his daughter for a night. King Aegeus spent the night with his daughter, Aethra. Later in the night, Princess Aethra had a dream where she was visited by the god of the sea, Poseidon. Later that morning, she visited the coastal site of Troyes, where the god Poseidon came and impregnated her. Thus, Aethra became pregnant by the seeds of both a man and a god. And at this time, King Aegeus decided to return to Athens. But before he leaves, he left his special sword and sandals under a big rock. He turned to Aethra and said that if she gives birth to a boy, she must tell him about the certain task. He told that when the boy reaches adulthood, he should take his sword and sandal under the rock. If the boy is strong enough to lift the rock and take the items, he should come to Athens to be the king as his birthright. After this, King Aegeus left, and short after, a boy was born named Theseus. Theseus grew up under his mother and his grandfather King Theseus in the kingdom of Troyes. When he reached manhood, his mother told him about this task that his father King Aegeus told. That his father has asked him to get the sword and sandal under the rock. The young Theseus moved the heavy rock with ease and retrieved his father's royal items, that is the sword and sandal. Now his job was to go to Athens to meet his father and claim his birthright to be the king. He was presented with two options, which is to go to Athens by sea or land. The sea journey is relatively easier without much inconvenience, but the journey via land is full of obstacles and dangers. The young and adventurous Theseus chose to go by land, as he wanted to overcome the obstacles and prove how great he was. This led to the 6 labors of Theseus. While going to Athens, he first encountered Periphetes, who wielded a large bronze club and would rob and kill any travelers. Theseus boldly fought this man and killed him with his own club. After that, he encountered Sinis, also known as the Pine Bender. This man would tie people between 2 pine trees and then release the pine trees, thus ripping the victim apart. Theseus punished this evil man and killed him by his very own way, and continued his journey to Athens. Then he came across the land of Crommyon, where he encountered an enormous boar called the Cromanian Soul. This was an ordinary boar, but a terrifying monster that Theseus fiercely killed and ended its reign. Then his adventurous way to Athens led him to meet Sciron, a man who would push people over the edge of a cliff. He would tell people to wash their feet over the cliff and push them. Obviously, this trick didn't work on a literal demigod and was killed by Theseus. Then when he was passing by Eleusis, he met Cercyon, king of Eleusis. Cercyon would force people to have a wrestling match with him and would kill any victims who he would defeat. But this time, this was an ordinary man but Theseus that he challenged. While fighting, Cercyon realized that he is no match for him, as Theseus is way stronger and more skilled than him. Theseus defeated and killed the tyrant ruler and marched on to Athens. His last fight before getting back to Athens would be against Procrustes, an innkeeper. He had 2 beds, a shorter and a longer. He would make his guests sleep on either of them, and stretch them or cut them depending upon the size. Theseus would make this man sleep in his own bed and cut his leg with his own axe and decapitate him. After defeating all the various bandits, he would finally make his journey to Athens, where he would meet his father and get his birthright to be the king.